All right, what's going on, guys? It's the Out Park Podcast. Today we got a huge guest. We got Justin. Justin, how are you today?
Good man, Josh. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man, it's an honor. I actually got connected with you through a teammate. He was taking, I forget what class it was here at college, and he had said that you came in to speak to his class and everything. He thought like everything you had talked about was super interesting. So I figured why not try to reach out and get you on.
Yeah, we'll give a shout out. It's one of the entrepreneurial classes taught by Tamra, who's a friend of mine. I think they call her Mrs. whatever her last name is, but her first name's Tamra.
So how did you kind of get into podcasting?
Dude, that's a really good question. So I started work. Actually, it'll be March of next year, so a couple months away from 10 years of podcasting. And to kind of give context to that, I used to tell people I had a podcast, and we go, "What's a podcast?" Like nobody knew what it was, right? And now it's like you tell people you have a podcast, and they roll their eyes and they go, "Oh God, you have one too." Like the medium of podcasting has just evolved over time. The one thing is, I never wanted to be a podcaster, even though that's how I announce myself now, just because of the success that I've had. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And at that point, I had three failed businesses. And I was like, let me start a podcast and interview entrepreneurs and figure out how they did it. You'll pick their brains and really like see what can I put into my business and my life. And what ended up happening was 6 months before I launched the show, my mom lost a 20-year bout of opioids. And that took on a life of its own. And those conversations became more real and raw. And we started on the show, started talking about rock bottom moments and overcoming adversity and all these crazy things. And I think the authenticity of those conversations is what led to the success and the growth of the audience, which led to Inc. magazine listing me a top 8 podcast every entrepreneur should follow, and all those things in between. So the reasoning behind why I started versus the life that it took of its own is just two totally different things. But I've fallen in love with the medium of podcasting. It's such a great gift to be able to share your story, share other people's stories, and connect with some of the coolest people in the world.
Yeah, it's so crazy how podcasts have become so big recently. Like I mean obviously like I've watched YouTube videos, everything like that, but I never fully started watching podcasts until maybe about like 2-3 years ago, and I never realized how strong they actually are. Because I always thought, okay, they're probably gonna be like the more boring stuff, like it's just people talking and everything. But the more I started to listen, like you actually learn so much more from just listening to two people talk or just multiple people. And it's just a crazy effect that it's had on like society, just being able to put out podcasts and everything.
Yeah, and when it happened, man, I'll tell you exactly when it happened. COVID happened, 2020. So people were sitting around and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, what do I do? Right. So the listenership of podcasting blew up. And then late 2021, which we were still kind of in the weird COVID age, a bunch of celebrities hopped in, right? And that totally changed the game for independent podcasters like you and me. But it really kind of built up the platform of podcasting. And then obviously you see, Instagram reels and TikTok clips and YouTube shorts and all this video content that's created from it. That has been a huge driver for so many people and their social media platforms. I'm really, really good friends with a guy named Chris Van Vliet. He actually is the #1 professional wrestling podcast in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And him and I talk all the time, and he was all in on video at first, and I didn't have any video for years. I was just strictly audio because like you, I was like, who would want to sit down and watch two talking heads,
Yeah.
just talking about whatever for an hour on YouTube? And so I'm about three or 4 years in. I finally focused on the YouTube channel, and we saw some organic growth, but most of my audience is still audio. And I think it gives that great flexibility of like, how do you consume content? Because there's the audio learners and there's the visual learners and all the things in between. And so, yeah, dude, it's changed the game so much. And obviously it was a big shout out to COVID. When the world changed forever, the medium of podcasting blew up.
Yeah, no, I mean it was such a rough time for a lot of people during COVID and everything, but it also helped so many people, like whether they were expanding their social medias or just getting into like any sort of content creation. It gave them so much more flexibility to do everything, and I think as bad of a time it was such a blessing for like so many people. For me personally, like I started taking baseball a lot more seriously. I started like actually like watching podcasts and like started to think about maybe this is something I wanted to do. And ultimately, I didn't start this until maybe like 2023, but like it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something with social media ever since like I started watching all those videos that were going out, every podcast, everything that was going out in COVID. So it shows that like you take like that negative time and just turn it into a positive situation, and in the end it works out for the majority of people.
Oh, you're 100% right. And so, first of all, congratulations to you for actually taking the action. I can't tell you
Thank
how
you.
many people I've talked to over the last 10 years have said, "Oh, I've wanted to start a podcast for so long," and they just don't pull the trigger, right? To put yourself out there in a way and open up and share your story and share who you are at such a deep level, because that's really what that is in these hour-long conversations you have with people. It's a big step forward. So shout out to you for taking that step in the right direction. COVID completely changed my business. At the time, 75% of my income was speaking, and then I host a live event for entrepreneurs every single year. And so that was 75% of my income. And it all disappeared for 2 years straight. That money never came back. And I had to really kind of take a step back and go, okay, well, what does that mean? How can I rebuild that income? And it was taking a look at my business in a different way and going, what other opportunities do I have? Really focusing on partnerships with the podcast and online stuff and being more online with community and all those things. And it's the perfect example of like a setback can be such an opportunity as long as you look at it that way.
So what would be your biggest piece of like, even just like a couple things of advice for anyone that's thinking about starting a podcast or has already started and is kind of just like newer to it?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell everybody, I'm like, first, lower your expectations. Everybody thinks they're going to record a podcast and thousands of people around the world are going to listen and they're just going to blow up like Joe Rogan. The reality is 80% of shows do less than 100 downloads an episode. Now, I say that, and then I also want to follow that up with like, if you were a speaker or you had the perfect audience in front of you of 100 people and you walked into a room filled with 100 people, you'd show up all day, every day. As a matter of fact, you'd probably buy your plane ticket, pay for your hotel room, just for the opportunity to be in that room. And so when you think about it from that way, like think about what 100 people look like in a room, it's a lot of people. So show up and continue to move forward, from that standpoint. Number two, consistency is key. Showing up every single week is the most important piece, because I look at it from a standpoint of like, people listen to so many podcasts but they only have so much time in a day. So why would they devote their time to a show that's 20 episodes in, 30 episodes in? I always say the new mark, it used to be about 40 or 50 episodes. The new mark is about 100 episodes, to show your longevity, to get people to find you and start listening. And what you find out is that people become binge listeners. So they'll find your show and they'll listen to 10, 15, 20, 30 episodes. And then they're hooked for life, right? And so the consistency is key, showing up, and then looking at it at a standpoint as like, look, you're building a platform for yourself, right? You want to grow your social media, you want to do all these things. Podcasting is a great way to create content without thinking too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the like obviously the easiest thing to do is show up and be a guest and answer questions on a podcast. The second thing is to get a little inquisitive and ask the right questions, is super important. And then the third piece is understand that people may come and watch your show because of a guest or listen to your show because of a big name guest you have on it, but they're going to stick around for you. So one big key that I tell everybody that a lot of hosts missed, at least for a long time, is that you have to inflect yourself into the show, your personality, your thoughts, your ideas, the things that you're bringing to the table. You have to put into every single episode at least a little bit, because they're going to want to stick around for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we might share the social media clips out when this episode comes out, and they might go, hey, I'll go listen to this show, like Justin's being interviewed by a college athlete, like that's kind of different. But they might not stick around unless you inflect yourself into it. And so those are right off the bat easy things to do, that most people don't. Like I actually read a statistic not that long ago that says 78% of podcasts don't make it past their first 7 episodes.
Wow.
And yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about, right? So like, congratulations when you're past 7, but keep going, right? I'm coming up on 10 years and 600 episodes. And so, it's one of those things that, um, I think that when you show up for people, whether it's just recording a podcast and putting it out, or showing up for them when you're there, you're building that long-term relationship. Look at your audience as a friend, as somebody who wants to hang out with you, and obviously if they're spending an hour listening to you, they do want to hang out with you. So treat them like that. One thing I always say is like, when you might say at the end of this, how can people find you? How can whatever? I always say, find my podcast, listen to a couple episodes. If you like it, click subscribe and come on the journey with me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm inviting them into my space, instead of just being like, oh, I record content and then that's it, and it just goes out into the ether. I try my best to stay in touch with some people. Everybody who follows me on Instagram, I used to be a lot better at it than I am now. Anybody who follows me on Instagram, I send them a quick voice note. Hey, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Let me know how I could support you, or how did you find me? What's the deal? And then I try and cater my messaging to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last piece I'll share, and we can go a little bit deeper into any of these if you want, But the last piece that I'll share is find out what your audience wants more of, right? You might have an episode that blows up. Ask the audience why they tuned into that one, and then find a way to be able to deliver more of that to them. Because the reality is, you and I aren't celebrities, right? You could be a celebrity one day in the big leagues, but like, we're not celebrities, and so like they're not showing up just because of us. They're showing up for the content you're creating, and so ask them questions. Hey, why are you listening? What can I give you more of? Like, oh, you liked that episode? Cool. I'll get more people like that, or I'll talk about that topic more often.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I know the first piece that you had said about lowering your expectations. I will say I was a victim of thinking like, okay, first episode's it's gonna blow up, and I think we did do pretty good. I think we got like maybe 500-600 views on the first episode, so we kind of, it was surprising because like you never really put into perspective how many people that really is. Like you see all these celebrities, they're getting millions and millions. It's like, okay, that's great, and then it's like, well, you get 600. It's not that many, but in reality, like you said, 600 people in a room is a lot of people. So like just to see, I think our first maybe like 10 episodes were in the range of anywhere from like 600 to 300 views. So we were kind of sitting at that like little consistency, and then obviously like life got in the way. We stopped filming for a little bit, and then we started to see that down to like 100 and just like under that and everything. But then we do get the occasional one where it's like 100, 200, 300 views. But the biggest thing that I've noticed, and you had mentioned, is the consistency. That was one thing that we were consistently trying to post on YouTube. We were doing Fridays every week, but we were only doing YouTube. Like we were maybe posting a clip here and there on TikTok or Instagram or anything like that, but we were just mainly on YouTube. And the biggest thing that I found over the past couple months was YouTube Shorts, and I think that's where we've gained a lot of our viewers and subscribers from, where they're watching shorts and they're like going then to listen to podcasts and everything like that. So it was a different time to start out, and I was like, okay, I'm hoping like the first episode's like 1,000, we start to grow, but it just never shows up like that. And it's a great journey though when you kind of start out like slower, because then as you see the progress, you kind of get more and more proud of what you're doing, and it kind of just shows people like you're ready to take this seriously. And I know we had a lot of people at the beginning, they were like, oh, like you guys are going to post 2 episodes and be done. And here we are 2 years later, we're still posting episodes. We're even more consistent now. And it's just something that I've learned to love over the last 2 years. And I have no regrets in ever starting this. This has been one of the best parts of my life so far.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about the content. The YouTube Shorts lead to subscribers and hopefully viewers from there. Like the shorts are kind of the entry point, right? Like the shorts are that little clip that you give them a little taste, and it's usually a highlight reel of some sort from the interview, and you might throw in some cool B-roll or whatever you're going to do with it, and then they go, oh, that's interesting. Let me go find something else. And what I see a lot of people doing, I'm a big believer in like finding the masters and following the model, right? Like what you see a lot of people doing is they'll create the shorts. They obviously have the full episode posted, but then they also have these micro clips of 5 to 15 minutes long, of a great part of the episode. Because you're right, like not everybody wants to sit down and watch a YouTube video for an hour, but you can hook them for that 30-second, 3-minute reel, and then into a 5 to 10 minute short YouTube video, and then into the longer one. It's all about that micro content of like what's next. I mean, I can't tell you how often I've seen a clip of a podcast I might listen to here and there and go, oh, that's an episode I need to listen to. And I'll go find it and I'll listen. And not to downplay too, like the audio downloads, right? We're talking about the visual, the videos, but the audio downloads are huge, because I think the average view, like say on a Facebook video, and I know that makes me seem old because I mentioned Facebook, and I know your generation isn't on it, but the average view of a Facebook video is 8 seconds long, whereas your podcast audience audibly will listen to 80 to 85% of each episode. So you're hooking them, and they're hanging on for you for that long ride. Like I listen to podcasts only when I'm on long car rides, right? So it's like that's when I listen to podcasts, because I've got the time, I can sit down and listen. And you have guys like Rogan who do 3-hour episodes. Like, okay, cool, I've got a 2.5-hour drive to the Jersey Shore. Like, let me put a Rogan episode in. I can listen to it on the way there, on the way back, and I can get through the whole thing. And so that way I'm listening, I'm hooked, I'm there the whole time. Versus a video, I got to get up from my desk, or I don't want to stare at my phone for that long, or whatever. And so like don't ever shy away from that audio game is really important as well. Like always clipping to, hey, you can listen to the full episode here.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of listening to podcasts on long drives. I think it makes the time go a little bit faster. So is there any like podcast that like you would consider like your top 3, top 5, anything like that?
So it's funny you asked this. I don't really listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
I haven't ever really been a huge listener, but I lean towards comedy podcasts. Bert Kreischer's show, Two Bears One Cave, him and Tom Segura. Bert is formerly a guest on my show, and so got me hooked into listening to his content. And Best Friends is a really good one. So like there's a bunch of comedy podcasts that I'll listen to just because you can just kind of unplug for a hot minute.
Yeah.
The only one I've really listened to consistently, whether it be like on my morning walks or whatever, is Rogan. I just like what he brings to the table. I think he's mastered the art of the interview, because he's so curious and he really dives into the knowledge and he knows what he's talking about. Whether you agree with his stance on anything or not, like he does his research, and so I'm hooked into that one. But I would say probably those three: Best Friends, Two Bears One Cave, and Rogan.
Yeah, those are definitely good ones. I've listened to all 3 of them. Actually, the Rogan one I haven't listened to like a full episode. I see like the clips and everything, and I've been meaning to sit down and just listen to like one full out, but I mean, kind of like you, I don't really listen to podcasts that much. It's not like the first thing I go to listen to, but I mean, doing it, it's kind of crazy that I never listen to any. So it's a weird fact. So was there any point during like filming and everything that you kind of knew that this was going to be a success?
It was 2 years in actually, so it took about 2 years for me to really see a huge success. And I had a couple thousand downloads per episode, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And keep in mind, like this was in the dark, man. Like I didn't. It wasn't as easy to record. Like I was using Skype, which no longer exists, and I was using a third-party recorder called Ecamm Recorder on the back end of Skype to record it. And there wasn't this whole like world to go into of like, well, what are other people doing in the space? Like, am I even doing a good job? Like, I was doing a great job and I didn't even realize it, right? Like, I was just like kicking the can down the road. And then 2 years in, just shy of 2 years in, Inc. magazine put me on that list, and 375,000 people read that article. I was one of 8 podcasts listed on it. It was like me, John Lee Dumas, who had a big entrepreneur. It was called EO Fire. Lewis Howes, Andy Frisella, like all these big names, and I was just some random guy on this list, and I got this huge infusion of listeners who then stuck around. And I had one other friend who was on the list, and he's like, "Yeah, I had a huge infusion, but then everybody disappeared." And that's kind of the key of like, are you putting enough of you into the show that your guests want to stick around, right? But that was like my, oh man, this is actually a thing that I could make money just recording a podcast. Like again, I was just using it as a networking tool, and that really kind of blew that up. And I've been able to go on to do, obviously some great partnerships with my show, but then also, spin that out into live events. I call it, my show is called the Growth Now Movement. My live event is called Growth Now Summit Live, and have been able to kind of build a brand off of it. So it was probably that moment, because I think during the hype of that article, I think I was ranked 54 out of all podcasts at one point. And it was like this crazy moment of like, what is going on? And it was like this really cool opportunity for me to be like, okay, take a deep breath. You now have people all over the world listening to you. Like my show now gets played in 100 countries every single week. And it's like, okay, you need to take this a little bit more seriously. Like it's not just a fun conversation. There's now people being influenced by what you're saying. But it was probably that moment where I was like, pinch me, and then, okay, cool. Like I have to take this a little bit more seriously.
That's crazy that you've had all the success. Congratulations on that. I mean, being even ranked top 50, like that's crazy. That's a huge thing. Has it like hit you that you're one of the best podcasts out there?
No. Like, look, here's the thing, man. I've realized this, and I've talked to so many successful people. I'm talking billionaires, professional athletes, professional wrestlers, all these people. I think the end of the day is like when you put in all that hard work, like there's never like, it's tough to have that joyous moment of like, oh wow, like reflection of like, oh wow, there's this massive success, right? Like it's cool, and I'm not saying like I'm not grateful for it, but it hasn't hit me in a sense of like, oh wait, like I'm in the top 0.5% of podcasts in the entire world. Like
Wow.
that's wild to me. But at the same time, it's like I've put in a lot of work, like 10 years consistently. I haven't been consistent in anything for a year, let alone 10 years, other than sitting down and having interviews, right? And so like I think it's that hard work and that dedication that leads to that success, and it doesn't feel like this massive thing. It feels bigger to other people than it does to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, when I looked at it, I was like, wow, this is very successful. This is a huge accomplishment for someone. So congrats on that. Was there any, like, I would say, like, not motivation, but like, was there any meaning behind the name of your podcast, or was it just something that popped in your head and you kind of just rolled with it?
Yeah, so it goes back to another business that I owned with a business partner of mine, and he was actually a co-host of my show for the first year of it. But we had this company where we put together seminars and expos, and we called them Growth Now seminars because we talked about personal and professional growth. And so the Growth Now kind of came over from there. But because we were using the term Growth Now seminars, we're like, we need to put something else there. And I didn't love the sound of Growth Now podcast. It didn't feel complete. And so one day it popped in my head, Growth Now Movement, and I called him. And I still had a day job at the time, and I was like, dude, like, what about the Growth Now Movement? And he's like, yo, I like it. Let's do that. And I didn't really know even what it meant. And honestly, I didn't know truly what that meant until this last April at my event. So you figure 9 years in, I finally understood what the word movement truly meant. I was hosting my event in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and I rent out a theater, and people come and they buy tickets to the event, and I have speakers and all these things. And I walked out on stage in the very beginning. I go, hey, do me a favor. If you've ever been a guest on my show or have previously spoken on stages that I've put together, stand up. And half the room stood up. And I was like, oh, this is the movement. Like, these are high level individuals that are operating at a completely different level, that want to show up, support, pour into others, uplift them. And so that is now the movement. So the intention was sporadic, but the reasoning became very, very clear last year.
Wow. No, that's huge. I mean, 9 years in and you kind of figured out the name. That's a huge thing. And I mean, for almost 50% of people to stand up that's a big thing. So, I mean, you're just showing that everything that you're doing every year is kind of getting better. So with these seminars that you do you ever get like nervous or anything going up and talking in front of all those people?
Time. I mean, I've given hundreds of talks all over the country. I can't say all over the world yet. I've only ever spoken in the continental U.S. But I get nervous every single time. But what I see happening is like, so I'll tell you my speaking style. It's laid back, right? I'm kind of sarcastic. I make jokes, but then also hit massive points that kind of make people go, oh wow, right? So like they're laughing with me, and then all of a sudden it's pretty serious. They lean in, and I would say usually the nerves are there. And then 5 minutes after I'm out on the stage, I finally relax, right? I in my own brain, because your voice sounds different to you than it does to other people. I'm sure you know this after recording the podcast. You're like, oh God, do I sound like that? Right? Like it's a weird thing to hear your own
Yeah.
voice so much. But like in my head, my voice is trembling. But my wife has told me many times, like she's like, your voice isn't trembling. Don't worry about that. There's definitely nerves. I'm actually more nervous. Your friend introduced us, who I spoke to. Well, we already talked about that, but I spoke to the entrepreneur class. That's more nerve wracking to me than standing in front of 1,000 people, because you have a group of 20 kids who have no idea who I am. Why do they care? Like all those types of things. That's more nerve wracking to me than 1,000 people, because you can feel the energy of 1,000 people a lot more than you can feel the energy of 20. And so from that standpoint, like it's all about like just getting in the zone and getting in the groove. And then the other thing I'll tell you, and I'm sure you experience this with baseball, right? You get nervous before you go on the mound. Um, the truth is, your body has the same reaction to being nervous than it does to being excited. And so I start telling myself, I'm very excited for this opportunity. I'm excited for this opportunity to go out there and deliver and hopefully say something that changes somebody's thought process or changes their life or has them look at something a little bit differently. And so I try and rewire my brain. Doesn't mean I'm not sweating. Doesn't mean I'm not, anticipating me falling on my face and totally falling all over myself during the talk. But to tell myself that helps calm that feeling just a tad bit.
Yeah, I know when I had started doing all this, like I'd never, like, I would say at the beginning of my life, like, I'd never enjoyed like random conversations with people or just doing anything like this. So I was very extroverted, and I never like, um, sorry, I'm very introverted. So I never really like talked to many people, and I kind of just like stayed to myself. And then as I kind of got older, I was like, okay, well, communication's a big thing. And it seems like it's something that's almost lacking in society, is not being able to talk to a person face to face and everything. So this kind of boosted my skills to be able to communicate with different people. And I can tell you that before, I would say the majority of the podcasts, even podcasts with my friends, like I'll still be like, okay, I'm a little nervous about this. And like you said, the first couple minutes, it's like you're still kind of getting in the groove. And then once you kind of get going, it's just natural. And it's kind of just like baseball. Like I do get nervous every time I go out to step on the mound. Like I'm like, okay, well, everyone's watching. I have to perform, everything like that. But then once you kind of get a couple pitches under your belt, like it's just natural. And it was definitely a big adjustment for me to be able to just have conversations for hours and like talk to people on a podcast, everything like that. But it's just, I think overall it's enhanced my ability to be able to talk to people and just be able to make conversations from anything, even if I don't know anything about the person. And I think that's been one of the biggest skills that I've learned, especially the past 2 years. And it's definitely something that's been able to kind of help me throughout everything in life.
Yeah, dude, it's and it's wild, like especially your generation, my step's generation. You guys grew up with the internet. You guys grew up with text messaging. You guys grew up with all these things, which made it easier to sit back and not approach people and to not have to have conversation right off the bat, right? You can think about the text and how you want to reply. You can think about all those things, and so I think more young people should do this, even to help them with their communication skills, help them get that job out of college or out of high school, however they're playing it. Like I'm not a college guy. I went to college for 3 semesters, community college, and then it was like, this is not for me. I'm out, right? Like so, to have that ability. I actually just saw a statistic. There's a guy who was in my mastermind who helps young men, and he was talking about, there was a statistic that came out that 50% of men between the ages of 18 and 25 have not asked a girl out in public or in person.
Wow.
So I'm like, 50%, like that's crazy. I had no other choice. Like I wish I had the text messaging option, right? And so like I'm like, that's a huge thing. Now to say it's not the worst thing in the world, like I met my wife on Bumble, so like, you kind of what's good and what's not. Now, could I have asked her out in person? Most definitely, because I grew up in a different era. But like I guarantee you, you have more confidence walking in a room than most guys your age because you're doing this, because you're having conversations with people you don't know them at all, right? Like I still get nervous when I interview certain people. Like fact is, I actually want to cancel the interview up until they come into the Zoom room because I'm so nervous. Like because I've interviewed huge names, and I'm like, you have that imposter syndrome of like, who am I to have this conversation? But it's certainly a skill, and the more you do it, the better you get at it, and you can 100% with the reps, you can have a conversation with anybody in any room. It doesn't matter who they are, how successful they are. Like people ask me all the time, like, how do you build friendships with these people? I go, number one, I make it about them, right? My biggest shift in life was I stopped trying to be the most interesting person in the world and tried to be the most interested person in the world. I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Ed Milet. He's got a huge podcast. He's an entrepreneur and helps other people through their life. And I had him on the show a number of years ago, and I remember he didn't get on the Zoom, and so I sent him an email and I was like, "Hey man, are we still on for our interview?" And he's like, "Hey, my internet went out. Call me." And he gave me his phone number. I'm on the phone and we're talking, but we have this great conversation. We had to end up rescheduling. But end of the conversation, I said to him, "Hey man, let me know how I can support you." And there was just dead silence on the other side of the phone. And I was like, "Oh, did he hang up? Did he like just hang up without saying goodbye or whatever? Like big time me?" And then all of a sudden he comes through and he goes, "Oh, hey, sorry." He's like, "Nobody ever asks me that." I realized then that people, these high performers, however you want to look at it, comes to them and they want something. They want money, they want an opportunity, they want an autograph, they want a whatever. And I just want to help them. And I think for me, like just approaching it with that way and approaching these relationships with curiosity, that changed the game for me. And it made me be able to navigate any room that I walk into. And that's been just a huge game changer for me personally, but also professionally.
So if you weren't running your podcast and all like your seminars and everything like that, what do you think you would be doing right now?
That's a good question. I I don't know, man. I'd probably just still be miserable in a job,
Mm-hmm.
like in, clocking out. One of the last jobs I had, I was in medical sales and medical sales management. I was running an office that was doing $2.8 million a year. And from the outside, anybody would look in and be like, "Oh, you're successful, man. You must be happy." And I was just miserable. My goal was always to create my life on my own terms. And I can tell you now, I work about 15 hours a week. I make more money than I've ever thought I would ever make. And I just feel blessed to be able to do that. And so this crazy medium that didn't even exist when I was a kid, right? Like that's why, asking a 17-year-old, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like if that thing might not even exist yet. And so I would be stuck in a job. I would be miserable, probably still be single, because the podcast helped me so much personally. But, it's one of those things where you know, I'm just glad, I'm just glad that I recorded an episode 10 years ago and ran with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd be glad to, and I'm super glad that I can start to hopefully start growing and everything like that. So it is crazy, and I know I've already said this, but it is crazy how powerful podcasts really are and how much they really do help you as a person and just enhance every single skill that you have. And just being able to, like, I think the biggest thing in life is connections and communication, and you can gain both of them through whether you're doing different social media content, you're doing podcasts, everything like that. I think I've seen a huge growth in like the connections that I have and like the different people that I've gotten to meet. And then also on the communication side, like I've been able to talk to a lot of people. So in my opinion, I think those are the two biggest things that you can have in life. Like what do you kind of think about that?
Relationships are the biggest thing. The people you surround yourself with, the community that you're surrounding yourself with is just absolutely huge. There's a quote by a guy named Jim Rohn, which you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with. And I can tell you, the first time I ever heard that, I was 19 years old, and I was like, okay, cool. I got to get rid of all my loser friends, go find 5 millionaires so I can go become a millionaire. And then quickly realized, oh, wait, that's dumb. That would never happen. Why would they hang out with a loser 19-year-old like me? And I swept that quote under the rug. And then after, fast forward many, many years down the road, and I've created success for myself, I look back on that quote and I was like, well, who were the five people over time? But I realized those five people all played a different role in my life. It's five specific roles that help support me and move me forward, and that's kind of the idea of like community, right? Like those people have helped move me forward, and I've continued to be, have the blessing of an amazing community of individuals who, really have guided me. I always say, like, I'm successful because I've stood on the shoulders of giants, because I have those people to support me who help me when I fall and help cheer me on when I'm winning. And it makes life so much more enjoyable, man, because I've seen so many people miserable because they continue to surround themselves with miserable people. The quote, "Misery loves company." That's very, very true. And I've been there at one point many times in my life, I'm sure. But when you have people that are positive thinkers, who are big thinkers, who see something in you that you don't quite see in yourself yet, that is the thing that moves the needle.
Yeah, I 100% agree that you kind of just need to surround yourself with people that are even just like, as long as I always look at it as I need to surround people that have like goals and they're like motivated towards those goals, even if they're not the same as mine. As long as I'm around people that like have something in mind that they want to do, I consider that a success. And it's been hard sometimes because I have had to cut some friends out that I've been friends with for a while, but like they were almost not holding me back, but they were on like the verge of that. So it is, the community around you is such a big part. And I think that's not something that many people think about when they're in like high school and everything like that, because you're just trying to fit in, you're just trying to have friends, everything like that. And it's become so much bigger to me as I've gotten older to realize, well, I'd rather have 5 friends that are motivated going after something than have hundreds of friends that are just going on with life and not really like looking to do anything specific with their lives. So it's, a community is definitely huge to have around you, and it's just like a free support system almost, because you can bounce ideas off of people. You guys can kind of grow together and grow towards those goals, and I think that's a huge thing for everyone.
Look at how many athletes have made tens of millions of dollars playing a sport, and 3 years after retirement they're completely broke. I can guarantee you I can link all the broke people to the reasoning being behind the people that they surround themselves with.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's hiring their friend as their financial advisor and they steal the money, or hiring friends who are like, give me, give me, give me. Those are the ones who go broke, but the other ones are the ones who've grown internally, right? If you can grow your self-worth, you'll automatically kind of weed these people who are needy out of your life, and you'll surround yourself with those people. But it's about focusing on yourself first, and the inner work that you can do and how you can show up for other people versus like, oh, these are my boys, they're my ride or die, they're this, they're that. Well, that's just stupid. Like, gotta let them go, or you're gonna end up broke like those other athletes who've made tens of millions of dollars. Like, you don't want that in your
Mm-hmm.
life, and you have to be super intentional about it. And sometimes it is sad that you have to let go of some people, but that sadness goes away real quick,
Mm-hmm.
like, because you're building your life for you. You only got one to live, so might as well focus on yourself and see how you can grow from there.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It is kind of sad sometimes to see some of these athletes where they're making millions, they're at the top of their career and everything, and then one thing goes wrong, they retire, something like that, and then they have nothing to go back on. Like, they're broke, they don't have any money, like they're doing all these other things. So it is a shame to see that, but then it's like, well, maybe they could have made a couple tweaks throughout their careers of who they're hanging around with, what they're spending money on, and I think just like all like the budgeting. Like, if I was, I'd like to say that if I was like a millionaire making millions of dollars, like I'd want to be able to like save a lot of it and then enjoy life with the little bit that I take out. And it's just the reality for some people that right when they get that money, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go buy this. And then like at the end of the day, like if they're going to buy a big, like expensive car, cars don't always last forever. Typically they only last a couple of years. So what are you really spending it on? Like, you're going to buy a huge, like, I don't even know, like a Ferrari that costs a lot of money. That's only going to last you a couple of years, and then you have to replace it anyway. So you're just kind of putting so much money into that. And then what do you get out of it? You just get a car that's broken down in 10 years or something like that. So I'm a huge thing on, or a believer on, just like budgeting that money. Like, when you make it, like, you have to have a plan what you're going to do with it. And I mean, I know a lot of like people around me and like friends and stuff, like we'll talk about money and stuff, and they don't necessarily have that many like plans for it. But I like to educate myself on doing different stuff like that. Like, I like to look at stocks, invest in that. At some point in my life, I want to get into like investing in real estate, everything like that. But not many people my age are really worried about it right now. They're just kind of worried about like going out and having a fun time, using money, doing all this just to have that small bit of joy rather than kind of planning for their future where they can enjoy it the rest of their lives.
Yeah, dude. And if you gave me $50 million, I'd quickly turn it into 100 million. Like, I'm not saying because I'm the genius. I'm saying because going back to community, I surround myself with these people who I would go up to and go, "Hey, I have $15 million. I need to turn it into 100 million." They go, "Do this, 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 and this," and they'll guide me on the right path, right? Like, money's just a tool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
money is a tool to not only give back, but to also build the life that you want. I'm not a things person, right? You mentioned a Ferrari. I would never, ever, ever buy a Ferrari, no matter how much money I had. Although an Audi R8, maybe, right? Like, so you look at all these things, right? But that's just the reality. And I mean, real estate's a great way to do that. My wife and I have a couple investment properties that over the last year and a half have doubled in what they're worth. So you
Mm-hmm.
talk about a good investment, like, that's a really good investment. And so I would say, like, if I had my mindset now at 41 that I had, like, that you're having now, like, look into it now and see how you can micro invest and how can you get into it in a small way and begin the process now, or learn the process now. That way, when you're in a place to be able to do it, you can do it successfully.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the difference between losers and winners, right? There's dreamers all day, but if you're not a doer, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can you really put that into play starting now, and then move forward, right? There's a lot of people in college who are making millions of dollars with Amazon and all these other different things. There's so many avenues now compared to when I was 19 to make a ton of money, with minimal effort. And so, like, I would begin to be like, okay, where I'm at now, what can I do now to move the ball forward and take these dreams and start becoming a doer and make it a reality. Like, I wish that I had that mindset at 19. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
was just a loser 19-year-old. So, like, and I don't know how old. I think you're like, how old are you?
I'm 20. I'll be 22 tomorrow.
Oh, nice, dude. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
But yeah, dude, like, now's the time to start setting those pieces up, because, you know, if you start at 30 compared to 22, like, you've lost 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I would look into all those little pieces of like, okay, how do I start now?
Hmm.
And that's again having these types of conversations you're having on the podcast. I think that's gonna change your life, man. You don't even realize it yet, but like this is going to set you up for so much success.
Hmm. Well, while we're on the topic, so what advice would you give me to start like looking into different things to kind of achieve that sooner on in life?
Yeah. Again, finding counsel, right? Like I feel like this whole episode has been about community and the people you surround yourself with. Find counsel, right? Like people who are willing to mentor you in different arenas. Find events that are happening locally that you can go to, focusing on specific things. Like I have a friend who's in the real estate game big time. He's got 300, 400 rentals and makes a lot of money and does the flips and does all the things. And he's the guy I went to and I said, hey man, we want to invest some money into real estate. What do we do? Right. So like having those pieces in place is the first piece because you don't want to do it and fail. So how can I have the counsel in my life to be able to, when I'm ready to make that move, go ahead and do it. So I would say find local events that are happening around you that are focusing on things that you're interested in, whether that's in Amazon drop shipping, whether that's in real estate, whether that's in card trading. Like there's so many different ways to be able to make money now. Find out where those people are, get in those rooms, and just be you. People try so hard to get into those rooms and they get in them and then they go, oh, yeah, I'm already successful. I don't need your advice. Biggest mistake in the world. Like, be the newbie, be the guy, right? Like, I love being the dumbest guy in the room because that means I'm walking out a little bit smarter. And so, where you're at now and still in college and playing the game of baseball, like, I would 100% just be like, okay, how can I spend a little bit of time once a week, once a month in these rooms with people? Because what you'll see, especially at your age, is like there's going to be two or three guys or girls there that are going to be like, hey, what? Why are you interested in this? Okay, cool. Like we can get you started pretty early. And so that would be my advice. And without giving financial advice on the air here, that would be my advice to anybody listening. That would be my advice to you: is like find counsel
Hmm.
in whatever it is you're actually interested in, and see if it's for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. That was great, and it's definitely something I'm gonna start like looking into over the next couple of months, everything like that, as I kind of get beyond the life of college and everything like that. So obviously, like you're busy with your podcast, everything like that. What are some of the things that you enjoy outside of all of this?
Traveling, like I love my wife and I love traveling, and our kids come along and all that stuff. I love a good cigar. That's probably my number one hobby. Love that. And then one thing I really tapped into the last couple of years, and this might sound cheesy, but I don't care, is I like to tap into the things that brought me joy when I was younger, and how can I bring them into my adulthood. And so, like, we're big fans of Disney World, so we go to Disney a couple times a year. Behind me, you can see a Lego DeLorean from Back to the Future. So I love building some Legos, which is the most for. It's like therapy, dude. When you're older, Legos are like therapy. I've built the Home Alone house. I've done all that stuff. All the Lego sets I couldn't buy when I was a kid. And so those are probably the things that occupy my time the most. Reading whenever a good book comes out, which is few and far between for me because of my attention span, ADD to the rescue. But reading a good book and just spending time with my family is the greatest thing that I could ever ask for. And the fact that I've built a life that I can spend time with them pretty much whenever I want, that's the goal.
Hmm. So with the travel part, what's your favorite place that you've traveled to so far?
Rome I fell in love with the city of Rome. We had a great time there. There's actually an all inclusive also in Key Largo, Florida, where my wife and I went. It's where I proposed to her, um, which was probably the greatest like beachy vacation I had ever taken. But I'll also say this: it's the next place I'm going. So always looking to explore new places. My favorite city in the country is Chicago. Um, great city. Like don't listen to the news that says there's crime everywhere. You're gonna get shot if you go there. It's not true. I've been many times. I've never been shot. Never even close. Chicago is my favorite city in America. Rome's my favorite international city, and my favorite beachy place so far. There's a place called Bungalows at Key Largo, which was just an incredible vacation.
Wow. Those are some big places. I've always wanted to kind of travel the world and everything. And I've gotten to a little bit of opportunity. I lived in North Carolina over the summer playing baseball. So I kind of got to see North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all that. But I would say that travel has been a big thing that I've wanted to do within the next couple of years. Like, at least throughout my life, is go to these different places. And Chicago is on my list. I've always wanted to go there. I mean, you do hear all the negative stuff, but I just see some of the pictures and it's like, that place looks great. Like, it's definitely a big place in the US that I want to go to. I've never been out of the US, so I can't really say much about any of the places outside, but there are definitely a couple places like Italy and all those types of like landmarks that I want to hit at some point in my life. But I don't know. Hopefully I can start to travel a little bit more as I get older, get a little more financially stable. And yeah, that would be the goal, is to just travel all over and experience a lot of different things.
Well, I'll say this, man, you can travel on a budget for sure. Also, you can design your life that pays for your travel. So as a speaker, I get to see so much of this country and somebody else is paying for it, which is a beautiful thing. And then also from a standpoint of like, we were talking about favorite places, and I can't believe I didn't say this first. So as a family, we take 3 vacations every year. They're locked in, and the other ones we move around. So we go to Disney, we go to Ocean City, New Jersey, which is actually where I grew up. So we go there for a week every summer. And then Cape Cod, Massachusetts, we rent a house in Chatham and have a great time. And the reason I say I can't believe I didn't think about this, dude, Cape Cod Baseball League, like if you can get in that, like that's an epic place to be. Chatham A's all the way, but if you end up on another team, that's cool too. And dude, a lot of legends played there. Nomar Garcia Parra, a ton of guys in the past. But Cape Cod's spectacular. Like that's our vacation where we're just in neutral all the time. Like it's just great. Like everybody, our nervous system calms down. The kids aren't annoying. Like all those things. Like it's just a beautiful place to be. Plus, if you're there in the summertime, you get to watch some really good baseball.
Yeah, that's definitely a place I'll have to check out at some point. So my final question for you is, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would you tell him?
I get this question a lot. Um, and I wish that I had some philosophical answer to it. But I would say it's all going to be okay. And the reason that's what I would say is because the failures, the disappointments, the heartbreak, the pain of losing my mom at a young age, the devastation of, my dad spent some time in jail, like all these things, like that all shaped me to who I am. And so maybe just the word of advice that it's all going to be okay would make those moments a little bit easier to navigate while it was happening. But they're necessary, right? Like I wish I could go back and save that kid in so many ways. But the pain was necessary to build the life that I have now. And that's for everybody, right? Like your setbacks are really setting you up for your greatest victories. I always say that when you hit your rock bottom moment in your life, whenever that is, whenever you define that to be, that's really just the jumping off point to greatness. And so it wouldn't be any trickery. It wouldn't be any, hey, avoid this person. It would just be, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah, no, that's a huge piece of advice. So is there any questions that you have for me or anything else that you wanted to kind of cover?
No, man, this was great. I appreciate you having me on. This conversation was a ton of fun, and I'm excited to kind of see where you go with this podcast and where your baseball career takes you. It'll be fun to pay attention to it and see where you're going, man. I think big things in your future.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm super glad we were able to find a time to do this, and I enjoyed every second of it. I learned a lot. I mean, I felt like I was the dumber one out of us two, and I definitely am leaving this podcast with some more information and everything I should start thinking about for my future. So I just want to thank you again for coming on. This was an amazing time.
Hey, man, thank you.